Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Harden, Senior Director at Benchmark International. I'm excited to be here today. I'm really looking forward to talking to everybody about market timing, your growth, and your exit strategy. We're going to learn a lot. Well, hopefully, you'll learn a lot today, or at least hear some things that you haven't heard before. Let me go ahead and start by introducing myself so you know who the guy on the screen is. Jared Harden, I'm one of the Senior Directors here at Benchmark International. A little bit about myself. I've been in the corporate world for several decades. I've been in many different industries, everything from retail manufacturing, as well as healthcare, software technology. My background is technology and marketing. I've spent time as everything from a field technician to the C-suite, CIO, CMO, COO, CEO, you name it. I've owned several small businesses, a startup business as well as family-owned business. So really, just about every every part of the entrepreneurial road I've been on, which is why as we talk today, I'm really excited to talk to everybody about one of the things that was a huge concern for me especially as I was in the small and growing businesses, and then later on as I got into businesses, they were more established. It just seems to be always something that's on your mind, right? When. So we're excited to talk about that today, and I'm looking forward to really walking through each of those steps with you. The first thing that everybody wonders is the timing, right? Am I too early? Is it too late? Have I missed the market? All of these things that we talk about. Really, the thing that I realize as a business owner, and that in countless opportunities that I've had to talk with literally hundreds of business owners, this is really an important point. The first thing that successful owners really understand is that it's never too early. Those who win big and those who really get it right, they're the people who realize that if I'm going to try to get the most out of my business, what I can't do is try to time the market, right? That instant of time where it's the absolute best opportunity is something that is pretty much impossible to find. The way that I talk about that all the time is, it's like trying to jump out of an airplane at 30,000 feet and hit the swimming pool of timing. Somebody probably did it once, and we heard about it all over the papers. But for the rest of us mortals, really the timing piece of this is not something you want to leave to chance. And so, really what it comes down to is, the business owners that really win here, what they realize is, they aren't really for sale as much as they are open for business in a different way. Meaning, the idea of selling, the idea of being in the market is not a single event. Oftentimes I talk to people all the time, and what the mindset that they have is that, hey, once I start this, I'm officially for sale. They look at it almost like putting a shingle up on the door, and now I'm suddenly for sale. It's really the wrong way to look at it, because ultimately that exit, that growth, that evolution of your business is something that really has to happen as a process. And there's a lot of education in that. There's a lot of pieces where you need to understand who the people that would be interested are, why they would be interested in it. You learn a lot about your business as you have those conversations and as you look into those type things. That can happen very early in your business. We've literally at Benchmark, we've literally had people come to us and start working with us when their product or their service is still in prototype stage, not because they're going to sell immediately, but because they realize the value of that real market feedback, that idea that, I don't know what I don't know. And so, the process that you go through in the marketplace is gaining that real market intelligence, that unbiased intelligence, research, and insight into the real people with real checkbooks who want to do something and who have the opportunity to really partner with you potentially, and really help you grow the business in a way that would be difficult to do on your own. That can happen very early in the business life cycle, and much earlier than a lot of people think. Not to mention, there's people who may come around and write you that nice check earlier than you ever expected, which most business owners don't realize is an option, an opportunity for them. So that really is what it comes down to when we talk about, hey, is it too early? It really can't be too early because you never have to do anything. All you're doing when you get into that process and get into the marketplace is be prepared. You're really stepping into that driver's seat and saying, you know what, this exit or this growth, this is something I want to be in control of. And I want to be in control of it because it's the future of my business. And I want to be aware. I want to have a good team with me. And I want to be able to set myself up in a way so that that end game is something that's not something left to chance at the last few minutes of the game, if you will. I want to be well in control of that, months, years ahead of time, and really see it coming and be able to maximize that in an intelligent way. So, with that, a lot of the things, especially in today's market, which is always very volatile, no matter when today is, it always seems like it's a volatile market. And so, the timing is something that everybody really wants to know about, right? When's the right time? When's the right time? And ultimately, what we find is, the normal peaks are great for a large number of people. Those are pretty typical people. There are a lot of people who can get a good deal when those peaks happen. But what's interesting is, the biggest winners will almost all tell you that being counter cyclical, and you hear this from the Warren Buffetts of the world and those types of folks, being counter cyclical is really where you can win big as long as you're available and looking. So, in our experience, that really is true. So, those who aren't ignorant of what's happening in the market, you know, they really know what's going on in the market and they know deeply, right? Those are the people who, when everybody else is crying bad market, they actually are seeing the things that everybody else is missing because they've been in the market, they've been looking, they know what those trends look like in a way that other people don't. And so, when other people are saying, hey, it's a bad market, they're saying, hey, look, it's a market with different opportunities and I can take advantage of that. And so, what they find and what we see with our clients is, those who, keep on the sidelines trying to guess and gauge the peak, they end up scrambling, and they end up pretty much always too late to the party to really take advantage of the best markets. Those who are ready to act and those who are already on the market and already in those conversations, what they find is when that opportunity comes during those volatile times, they're able to capitalize on them. They're really able to take advantage of that, and because of their ability to take advantage of that, they're actually growing their business when everybody else is scrambling around trying to shore it up. And so that's something that we see is really important as people talk about when should I be in market, when shouldn't I? For any given business, it can always be the right time. And if you take anything away from this part of it, I would tell you that for any given business, it can always be the right time to find the great opportunity. So, uh, so with that, we've talked about how it's countercyclical sometimes. It's also unpredictable. The best timing for you may not be what you think. The reality is, and as a business owner, you'll know this. The reality is, my next my next big opportunity can be just one deal away, right? It's just one conversation away from a whole new world opening up in my business. You know this with the customers that you have. You land that big customer, or suddenly that big order comes in, or suddenly that big RFP, that big project comes through, and suddenly, you're in a whole new world. So let's talk about that. That brings us to the point of personal burnout, fatigue, performance, those types of things. This is a really important point for business owners. When things are going great, it heads to the ground, the nose is to the ground. We aren't thinking about anything else. We're just going, going, going. Life is good. We're flying high. But at the end of the day, one of the things that as an entrepreneur and in working with a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they're very high functioning, not only in their ability to think about a lot of things at a very high level, but they're also very high functioning in that they have an amazing capacity to work, 60, 80, 100 hours a week, week after week after week. Ultimately, at some point, what inevitably happens is that you burn out, you get fatigued, your performance starts to wane. It's great when we're running up that hockey stick of growth, But as that starts to slow down, or as we get, months turn into years, the ability to maintain that pace, becomes harder and harder, right? It's kind of like getting up to the top of Everest, right? The air thins, we've been there a long time, everything's worn out, and suddenly, performance wanes. That's not the time when you want to get into the market. And once again, this comes to the idea that, we burnout. The other thing that is important is actually personal circumstances there, right? You never know when that personal tragedy happens. At any given time, I probably have 10, 12% of the people that I'm talking to who have some sort of personal and unexpected tragedy that's happened in their life. Certainly, we don't hope that on anyone, but it's something that, by virtue of what it is, we can't predict. And so that opportunity to be ready to make a move, and be in that marketplace and be aware of what's out there and what's going on, really is a nice way to insulate ourselves from, that personal fatigue and burnout situation where we, decide to pick up the phone one day and say, "Hey, help me get rid of this thing. I'm ready to get out of here." You really don't want to come into the marketplace with that attitude. And those who really win the biggest are those who, by the time they start to feel that a little bit, they've already got themselves well positioned to be able to run that race, get through it, and be able to really hit and exit at the top of their game. The other thing that's important to realize as we talk about that personal burnout, fatigue, and performance is, as you're an early business owner, you're kind of the only person on the hill, right? I mean, we make the joke of I'm the CEO and head janitor, but really for our clients, it's a big reality. I mean, you really are wearing, the average business owner, small business owner, probably wears between 3 to 5 hats at the end of the day. And that's something that, as you come into this process and as you go through that next stage of evolution, rather than sell, a lot of the people, what they're actually doing is they're saying, "Hey, look, it would be so nice to wear just one hat. I could probably do this for another 5 to 10 years if I was only, the CEO or the COO or whatever the role is that they want to take." And so, one of the benefits of being in the marketplace at, all the time, is that, too early may be too early to sell, but a lot of times it's not too early to take off some of those hats and really allow you to focus on making the highest and best use of your time. Most folks who own businesses, what they really are is they're exceptional at one or two things that made it so, and they have that passion and that drive that allowed them to become that successful business owner. And the rest of it, they're kind of forced into because they just happen to own a business. A lot of times that strategic partnership, getting that right person at the table with you, allows you to really offload those things that you aren't the best at, but you're not quite sure how to get up because there's nobody there. Bringing in that right strategic partner, and especially in the middle market, brings in a lot of those pieces and allows you to really make what business owners love, which is the highest and best use of their time. They can come to work and, where it was, "Hey, I have to deal with all these things I don't like to do." Now suddenly it's a bigger business, but they get to do the part that they love. And that's really important. And it's a really important reason that people come into market, is to be able to get themselves in that situation. And we hear it all the time. "Hey, I love what I do. I love this business. It's got a lot of legs. It can still grow, to a phenomenal level. It's just, I can't do it all. The way it is today is untenable. I'm burning out. I can feel myself fatiguing. I'm starting to see it in the performance. And if it's going to happen, and I'm going to get to that next level, I need someone in the boat with me who can help me along there. And I need to do what I do best." And so that's an important piece to think about as you're looking at, when should I do this? You never know when that point can be. Sometimes somebody can be going at a high level and all of a sudden just wake up one day they're just tired of it. That's not when you want to start looking at it. You want to be in a position to be able to bring in that partner well before you get to that level of fatigue, because that's going to make a huge difference in your business's ability to perform at a very high level and become a much larger business. So let's talk about what understanding value. This is something that I have in every conversation, right? What is it that makes my business valuable? Now, I wish that I could give you a nice, tidy list that you could just check off and say, "Yep, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it." No, I'll give you a few of them, but we really want to talk about what the value drivers, no matter your business, no matter your industry, and no matter where you're at in that life cycle are going to be. A couple of things that always are valuable, and this is what I'd say to start with. One of our managing directors here said this to me once, and it's really stuck with me because it really does hold true. Good value is always valuable, no matter what the market is, no matter what the industry is. If you've built good value in your business, it is going to be valuable. So let's talk about what good value means. One, quality and loyalty of customer base. If you've got good customers, especially if they're repeat or recurring customers, extremely valuable. If you've got a lot of them, so if you don't have one particular customer making up a large percentage of your revenue, then that makes you more valuable to the degree that you've got, we've had people with as much as 90% of their business comes from one customer. There's a huge risk in that. So anything you can do to mitigate that and decrease that, we call it customer concentration. Anything you can do to decrease that is going to make it easier for people who are coming in and either being a partner or an acquirer of your business to say, okay, there's less concentration risk here, right? Another one, opportunity for profitable growth. What's the runway look like? Do I own 80% of my market today, or do I only own 8% of it? Because that makes a real difference for somebody coming in and looking at what's the growth potential. So the better the growth potential, the opportunity for growth, the more valuable your business can be. Sustainability of earnings. If you've got, hey, this year we did 10 times more than we did last year. Next year we're going to do 5 times below that and then 10 times above that. Obviously, that's very difficult to gauge what your business value is going to be. How sustainable are those earnings? How well can we continue to maintain and then grow the business? And that comes into the next one, which is the quality of those profits, right? Is this recurring revenue? Is it project revenue? Is it one time and we don't know where it's coming from after that type of revenue? The ability to predict and show the quality of those profits is always going to help you in that, when people who are trying to acquire start to do that calculus of how much is it going to be worth to us down the road. The next one is strength of brands. This one's really interesting because it's the strength of several brands. It's the strength of your personal brand. That one's the easiest one for you to understand for most business owners, but in many ways, the hardest to gauge. The quality of your brand, the strength that you have in the marketplace, absolutely valuable. Beyond that, it's the strength of the brands of the people that you are actually doing business with. If you're doing business with a top 100, Fortune 100 company, Fortune 500 company, those are folks who typically, are still going to be there the next day versus if your business is with a bunch of startups and startups are kind of your bread and butter. Well, there's a lot less guarantee that opportunity to continue to service those businesses is still going to be there. So that's true on the front side of this, but it's also true on the back end of it, where, hey, who are the supply chain partners that we have? Are these people who are one-offs? Are they people who just started up? Are those supply lines still going to be there? Those types of considerations. So, oddly enough, the value of your business matters from end to end in all of those relationships, from where we're getting things all the way through to where we're then handing that off as a sale and beyond. The skills of your management and staff. This is usually one of the strongest pieces of the folks that we work with, is that they have highly tenured, highly expert people who are bought in, love the culture, love what you're doing, and are extremely good at it. To the degree that that's true, your business is going to be valuable. People are going to want to buy into that and pay a lot of money for it. And so it's an important part of things. So those are just a few considerations. There are more, but those are some that we see very consistently across whatever industry, whatever size, whatever type of business that are going to be valuable. So let's talk about what makes your business valuable. Now, one of the things that people get really hung up on, and I think it's because they're used to real estate transactions where it's nice and tidy. We've got this house and we're gonna we're gonna sell it. Businesses are not that way. Businesses work a very different way when you come to valuing them. And this is something that's absolutely critical to understand. There are really three parts that go into value as you're coming into the process that we do. The first is the financials. Everybody knows that the financial information is going to be part of the conversation. Always true. And there's no exception to that. It is an important part. It tells an important story. It helps us understand what's happening. It gives us a real insight into what the business does, how it's run, what its profitability is. Always going to be part of the conversation. Now, the reality of that and the sister reality to that is while it's always part of the conversation, it's always a historical measure of what has happened already. And that's really important because while it's the most concrete indication of how your business performs, it's also a historical measure of how your business performs. Somebody who's coming into this process, what they're really looking at is okay, you've performed up to this point, you performed here. What's the opportunity going forward? Now, that's not, it's two parts, right? One is the opportunity of what you're doing today in your business with all of what the resources you have and everything else. But the second piece that somebody who's coming in is looking at is what can I add to this? And how does that growth opportunity change with what I, as the acquirer or strategic partner, bring to the table? That is a big part of what they are willing to pay for, the opportunity to partner with you or purchase the business. And so it's something that you really have to be able to tell well is that growth story, right? Where are we growing to from here? And how would we get there and what would that look like? Not just for you personally, but whoever's at the other side of the table. And so it's important to be able to have someone who can articulate that story in a way that buyers and acquirers understand, care about, and that focuses on the things that will help them really ascertain that growth potential correctly. So that's kind of the centerpiece, right? So there's the financials, then there's the growth potential. And then the third piece of this actually ties into that because it's the buyer itself, that unique buyer. Every buyer, anytime anyone asks me, how much is my business worth? The first question I want to ask is, well, who's asking? Who are they? And what would they want to do with it? Because ultimately, that is a huge determinant of the value and the amount that they're willing to pay for it. So, one of the things that we really focus on here at Benchmark is making sure that we bring as many possibilities to the table as we can. Because ultimately, especially when you're looking at these very strategic conversations where we're repositioning ourselves in the market because of an acquisition or things like that, those aren't conversations that people are having and splashing all over the front page of the newspaper. These are conversations that are happening in boardrooms, back rooms, closets, as deep and darkly and as close to the chest as people can hold. Those types of conversations, they're trying to do that. And so, in order to find those people, you have to run a very broad process. You have to have the ability to make people in a discreet and confidential way, make them aware that what they're looking for is out there. And the more unique the asset that they're looking for, the company that they're looking for, that partner that they're looking for, the more they're willing to pay for it because they can't find it around every corner. Sometimes it's hey, we want to go in a new market, but that would cost us 4 years and however many dollars to be able to get where we want to be there. Is there somebody there who will shortcut that and already have most of those pieces in place and et cetera, right? And so that unique buyer is a huge part of this. And it's one of the things that we find in our, in our position as one of the largest global middle market firms in the world. We find that that's what we're really able to leverage more than anything else is our ability to go all over the world in every part of the ecosystem and really look for and find that unique buyer. Because that's the piece that, the financials are always there, right? Your personal growth potential is going to be pretty much what it is. But what they bring to the table, what they can do with it, and then beyond that, where it can go if you go together, that's different for every single person that comes to the table. And the more people that you bring to the table, the more opportunities you have to get to that really perfect match, right? That person who's exactly right, the best possible person to go ahead and be that partner for you. And when that happens, you really feel it. I mean, we tell people all the time, look, when you have a meeting with somebody, if you don't come out thinking, man, this is going to be amazing, I'm so excited about this, you probably haven't found the best option yet. And you really want to have the ability to keep going and keep looking until you can find that. Because that's where, and the reason being is that's where a lot of that value comes from. Now, once you find those people, you really don't want to just find one, right? If you think about it, it makes sense. A one horse race is not really a race. What you really want is to be able to find two, three, four, five, six, as many as you can different options and opportunities and possible partners who all have a great view of the business, who all see great value in it. Because then what happens is you can make that a competitive process. And I can't overstate how important that competitive aspect of this is. When you can introduce a fear of loss, you can honestly say in a negotiation, it's okay, we have other options. Your value goes up tremendously. You really want to be able to put yourself in that position. We find that as a value driver, that's one of the largest value drivers. Once we get the right people in the room, right? Those people who have a good view of the business, see value in it, that competitive piece becomes critical. That's what really drives you up to that next level of value, not just in dollars, but also in terms of deal structure, right? There's really two pieces of a deal. There's dollars and deal structure, right? So when the dollars kind of get where you want them to be, you got to make sure the deal structure is right too. And that competitive process is extremely important when you're coming into those deal structure conversations and driving that value up. So those are the pieces that make up value, right? It's the financials, the growth potential and the growth story, finding that unique buyer, and then I call it the icing on the cake of having that competitive process where you don't have just one great option, you have several great options. When you do that, that's when you're really able to drive the value of your company. And once again, notice that in that whole value conversation, we didn't talk about timing. That can happen at any stage of your business and at any time in your business life cycle. Now, when you're ready to exit, hey, that's an exit conversation. But anywhere along the way, you can still go through that same process to drive to that right strategic partner that's going to get you to that next level. It's going to help you grow your business, accelerate that timeline from, let's say 3 to 5 years down to, 1 to 3 years to be able to hit that next tier that you're looking for in your growth. And so that's where, as we talk about growth timing in the market, we really need to understand that because of the way that we look at value and what makes you valuable, the timing for growth and the market for that is really any time. There, and it's important to realize that. And that's where I said in the beginning, it's kind of the wrong way to look at it to think that the exit strategy or the growth strategy is a single culminating event. That's not true. What you really need to put your head around is that you're not for sale necessarily as you look at that growth and exit strategy. You're open for business in a completely different way. There are a lot of ways to grow. There are a lot of ways to, get out of a company or take off one or more of those hats. And that can happen and should be happening. Those people that you read about in the newspaper that really win, that's what they've done. They haven't done it on a single event. What they've done is they've taken a series of events and turned that into an extremely effective exit growth strategy. And that's what you're looking for. And that's, as a business owner, that's the thing that escaped me for many years, was that idea of, I would always have those conversations. Man, how are we going to get out? What's the exit look like? Or, hey, how are we going to get funding for this? How are we going to pay for this? It's, you think you're being strategic. At least I did. I thought I was being strategic, but my strategy was still very short-sighted, and it just didn't understand all of the variables. I've been the guy in that seat. Ultimately, that's what brought me into this chair was having been in that, and then having my eyes opened and understanding what life really could have been like when I was sitting in those chairs and saying, "Oh, I don't want anybody to have to have the types of conversations I had and feel stuck." Because at the end of the day, there's a whole world of options and opportunities out there. But once again, you don't know what you don't know, and that's really what we're trying to help everybody understand today. So let's talk about another thing that really people talk about a lot is my business being ready to sell. Right? Hey, I hear so many times, hey, as soon as I do this, or when we get to here, or oh, we want to make, there's this, and this that need to be in line before we do that. That's something, I call it waiting for perfection, right? We're waiting for perfection. And, it's as a business owner, I know that you're the biggest critic of your business. You know every part of it so well that you see all the flaws, right? It's like the painter who everybody else thinks it's beautiful. And, The only thing he can see is the places where he messed up, right? And so it's true for business owners. And and once again, entrepreneurs are people who drive so hard and just they are unreasonable. There are a lot of folks out there say, hey, the best business owners are unreasonable people. And to a point, it's kind of true, because as business owners, what we really are doing is we're saying, look, I have a vision that's above and beyond everybody else, and I want to get there. And I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to settle. I love that about entrepreneurs. I think it's one of the most admirable traits that many of them have. However, when you get down to it, when it comes time to exit, that can actually work against you, and often does. And the reason for that is very simple. And there's a couple things that I'll help you understand here that hopefully will open your mind to the fact that not being perfect for many buyers and acquirers and growth partners is actually preferred. And here's why. And it can be counterintuitive, right? You think, oh, I need to hand somebody the perfect company because that's what will be worth the most. The reality is that's true for a very small segment of the market, which we'll talk about. For the rest of the market, interestingly enough, that's not necessarily true. So, in a little bit of a counterintuitive way, in the middle market, many strategic investors and financial buyers are actually looking for and willing to pay for an opportunity for growth. What you need to realize there is they're looking for something that isn't perfect, because what they want to do is they want to be able to get a lot of people in the room and say, hey, we want to pay this much for this, and then we're going to grow it bigger. And then once we grow it bigger, we're going to sell it, or do something else with it, and we're going to make a lot of money doing that, right? So if they can't see that road from where you're at up to that next stage, it's very difficult for them to justify paying anything but a very nominal price. And it's really interesting the way that that works. Now, this is something, as I got into this world, that really opened my eyes personally, because I was always the guy who said, hey, look, and I own software companies. So, software, if you're in software at all, you're going to smile and laugh at this. In a software world, there's no such thing as done, right? There's always scope creep. There's always feature creep. There's always something else that can happen to make it better. So that idea that we're going to hit the finish line is a myth. Whether you realize it or not, it's a myth. But that's true in a lot of companies, right? There's always somewhere else you can go. But what you need to realize when we're looking at this is, and the way that we actually talk about it a lot of times is, those companies that still have meat on the bone for growth are the ones that tend to be the most valuable. That's the experience that we have. If if a large segment of buyers, acquirers, and strategic partners see ways to help you streamline, help you grow, help you go into new markets, new verticals, all of these different ways that you can grow. If that opportunity is still out in front of you, well, somebody who's coming in and buying it here sees, hey, I can do XYZ, and it will be larger, and it will be worth more, and my investment will be worthwhile. And so the larger that delta between where you are today and where they see you, the larger that delta and the easier it is to find, the more you're going to be willing to pay for you. They will be willing to pay more when it's easier to grow, and especially if it's something that they're really good at. And this is where the best deals come from. So you talk about that entrepreneur that has three, four, five hats on. Well, you bring in a strategic partner who says, "Ooh, you know, they're the best at this. They don't really like these four pieces. We're really good at those things, and we know that we can take those hats off and we can run them in a way that's more efficient, more cost effective, quick to do, and allow them to then focus on the things they're best at, which means they'll be more productive, they'll make more money, the margins will increase because of what we're doing. Everybody wins, and there's huge value in that. And because of all these things, we're willing to pay more, as opposed to what a lot of owners think, which is, hey, I've gone and I've got the new IT system. Accounting's right where it should be. We've done every bit of marketing we could do. And finally, I've hit this point and now I'm ready to sell. Well, that growth oriented buyer that looks at that comes in, and in first pass, they say, oh, well, they've kind of done all of the things that we would be good at doing. And so the only thing they'd really be good for right now is a roll up. And so, that's where that segment of the market that still loves that, it's kind of the roll up segment of the market. They say, hey, we want a turnkey operation that we can buy into quickly, we can add into our balance sheet, And then we can do that with them and four other people and then roll that into a big deal. Those deals are out there, but we find, especially in the middle and lower middle market, that is a minority of the opportunities that are there. For every one of those, you're going to see four or five opportunities for the business that's imperfect to get a strategic growth partner or an acquirer who's excited about what they can bring to the table. And so that's where, for any business owner, and hopefully you can take a big sigh of relief as a business owner, you don't have to be perfect to sell. In fact, if you're not perfect today, there's a really good chance that you're worth more in today's marketplace for a larger number of people. So, congratulations! I hope that alone was worth the time in hearing that. I know for me, when I realized that, that was a huge sigh of relief, and I realized, oh, okay, well, let's make sure that we let everybody know, right? And that's what we find in the process is, everybody thinks, well, I can't show my weaknesses, and that's true to a point and in some ways, but you're not really showing that. What you're showing is the growth opportunity, and that's what you really need to tell people. And that's what we, as we put out those sims and those that collateral, is we're showing people, look, here's where the growth opportunities are, right? One man's weakness is another man's opportunity, and it's important to realize that is never more true than in this process of strategic growth and exit. And it's really important to realize that as you come into this process. Um, so let's talk about the key to the best deal. Very simple. Fit is the key. Now, this is particularly true for Benchmark International because a large number of the people that we work with are non-backed, founder-owned, family types of businesses. And in those businesses, that conversation is typically, hey, the money has to be there, right? I need a certain amount and I want the most money possible. But just as important to that is, I also want to make sure that my people are taken care of, or that, the future is better than the past, or that it's going to be a cultural fit. And ultimately, those are the same considerations that someone on the other side of the table has, right? They're like, hey, look, we know we're going to have to pay for something that is a good fit, something that brings the type of value we're looking for, that has the growth potential we're looking for. We know that the money, we're going to have to put up the money for it, and we're willing to do that. That's the thing. Most buyers are willing to pay for value, right? That goes back to the saying we said, good value is always valuable. And what's valuable to any given buyer can be different. So, you may not be worth anything to buyer X, but buyer Y, you may be exactly what they're looking for. They're perfect match. And that's true over and over and over again. That's why we literally go to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of potential buyers, because our goal in this is not just to find somebody that wants to buy. That's easy. We want to find that perfect partner that's the right fit. And that really is where the best deals happen. The cultural fit is there. We don't have this, they have this, all of those types of things. At the end of the day, when the fit is there, it's amazing how the numbers can always be made to work. But if the fit's not there, I can tell you, no matter how big the numbers are, if the fit is bad enough, the deal won't happen. And so that's where we always make sure that people, as they come into the process, they realize, look, there's a lot of people out there. The way that our transaction folks talk about it, they say, hey, look, you've got to kiss a few frogs to find the prince, and it's really true. It's like dating almost. I hate to bring that in, but there's some truth to it, right? You're finding somebody that you're going to, really stick with, and you want to be just right, and it's worth it to hold out. And the best way to hold out is to have a broad process that's got a lot of people involved and able to bring in every possible match, because that fit at the end of the day is absolutely critical, and you've got to get that right. The only way we know how to do that is through, a broad. In our case, we like it to be a global process where you're able to bring in every part of the ecosystem all over the world, and that's where we find that you're most likely to get the right fit, and the right fit will pay. Uh, so, as we look at this, making the decision, it's important to realize when you are and aren't making a decision. One of the things that we run up against a lot of times is that people feel like by engaging Benchmark to help them begin this process, and it is a process, somehow they've made the decision to sell or to get a strategic partner. Nothing could be further from the truth. the very top piece of what we talk about, at the very top of our service agreement says you are under no obligation at any point to do anything. And that's absolutely critical because it's important to realize that, there's really two decisions you need to make. The decision to actually take control of your exit, which is the first decision, and understand that, hey, this isn't a single event, this is a process. And that process begins by taking control of my exit strategy, taking control of my growth strategy in a completely different way. And that's what people, as they come and work with us, begin to do, right? You gain access to make that a reality. That's the first decision. Decide that I'm going to invest in and I'm going to go and start working on and understanding what that looks like. So that's the first decision. The second decision comes much later, right? Well, there's really three decisions, right? The second decision is who am I actually going to go under letter of intent with? That's kind of a mid step where you say, hey, look, I've seen all these suitors, I've seen all the options. This is the one that I want, that I think I want to go with at this point. But that should only happen when you have a wide array and a lot of knowledge behind you as to what the options are, both in deal structure, types of buyers, a full purchase versus a majority or minority, all these different things that are out there. You want to have an awareness of all of those things before you ever jump into that second decision point of who is it that I'm going to actually look towards a deal with. And then the third decision, obviously, is that actual, signing on the dotted line and getting a deal done, right? That's where the true critical decision comes in, where you say, hey, look, this is for keeps. This is for keepsies. This is going to happen. I'm actually giving a portion of my company for consideration, right? That's in cash and all the other ways we can do that. That at the end of the day is the big decision. The first decision that most have to make is, hey, how am I going to become aware? How am I going to start that process? That's where, the conversations we have at Benchmark are helping people realize you don't have to do it alone. It's actually done best when you have an entire team of M&A professionals who are working with you to help you navigate those waters because they're new waters. For most of the folks that we work with, if you've done two or three deals in your life, well, you're at the top end of the experience spectrum. As we come into this, we expect it to be, if not a once in a lifetime experience, certainly one that you've only had a few times and it's going to be a life changing event for you. That's the way that we look at it. And so we're very keen to help educate you in a whole new world and help you understand all of the ins, outs, ups, and downs, opportunities, and everything else that's out there. And that's really the first decision that I would invite you to make is, okay, when do I want to start being aware? When do I want to start understanding that, you know, this for sale idea is really kind of a myth? It's I need to be open for business to grow, to venture into these waters and, grow and exit in a completely different way than I've thought about. Ultimately, the right question that I would tell you is not when, right? And that's what I would say in conclusion. When is not the right question. It does not capture the full picture. Business owners that win the biggest, they recognize that it can always be the right time. And so instead, what they ask themselves is they ask this. They say, is there a time that I don't want to be ready to explore a strategic partnership or exit? Is there a business reason that I don't want to be proactively prepared, aware, and in control of this part of my strategy? Right? I mean, honestly, the erroneous assumption at the outset that the exit is a single culminating event and that somehow it will like close one chapter and open another, it's just not true. And I can tell you literally from thousands of deals with the most successful owners, the ones that really win big and get the highest value when they do finally exit, they understand that that highest value is often several partnerships away. And they realize that if you want the highest value at the ultimate finish line, then I don't know what I don't know today. The market itself is the best unbiased source of intelligence, research, insight, and understanding into real opportunities. And I can promise you that if you don't look, you'll never be aware or have access to any of those. So at the end of the day, realize that this isn't about being for sale. It's about being open for business in a completely different way. And I would invite you as you look at that and wrap your head around that understanding to really say, okay, what do I need to do to be aware of to be able to understand in any given market, right? Whether it's a good market, a bad market, what do I need to do to understand the opportunities are there and get those opportunities in front of me in a proactive way so that I can then make a fully informed business decision. I can tell you, having seen hundreds and hundreds of businesses go through this process, that there are thousands of businesses out there that are just letting opportunities to grow pass them by. They just don't know. They just are not aware of that. That's the invitation that we at Benchmark always have is, hey, look, you don't have to sell. You don't have to get into a strategic partnership. But if you're a business owner who wants to get the most out of your business and grow in the best way, you absolutely want to be aware and you want to know what's out there. You want to be in that marketplace with that kind of awareness. So hopefully in all of this, you've seen some things here that make you say, hey, look, I could actually go and do this today. I can start taking control of this. We at Benchmark would love to have that conversation with you. The link to connect with one of our M&A specialists will be below in the description. I invite you to have that conversation. Hopefully I'll have the opportunity to talk to you. I would love to have that conversation with you, dive into this with more depth, and really start taking control of this part of your exit strategy. I can tell you as a business owner, it's something that is really going to be a load off your mind, knowing that you've got this huge team of experts that are working on that part of your business, bringing opportunities. The education that you'll get in that will be phenomenal for you, not to mention the opportunities that will come. So I would invite you to do that. Once again, the link's below. Just click into the link in the description. One of our M&A specialists will be there available and be able to have that conversation with you, and we can go from there. I wish you all the best and look forward to talking to you at some point. Thanks so much.